probably have been hands off for a very long time. Hey, you want to sit down for a quick interview? 5 seconds. Come sit down. Take a look. What's up, man?
Are we streaming?
Live in effect with John Galt here. Let me show you yourself.
Sorry, am I too close?
No, you're good right there.
No worries.
All right, let me pull it back. What's your name, by the way?
Hey, my name's Matt. What are we streaming on?
YouTube.
YouTube Live?
Yeah, you want to see yourself?
Yeah, of course, of course.
All right. So here's your channel, John Galt, Urban Landlord. And we have the Clips channel. So I think this ends with, we'll go live. It'll be able to clip it up on the Clips.
No worries, I got you. I know.
So here you are.
Totally. If I needed to, I could pull it with OBS myself. Don't worry. I know.
You know about OBS here.
I know the game. Yeah.
There you go. So let me ask you. So
I gotta be honest. You're urban landlord.
I am a landlord.
I'm
DC.
I'm not the friendliest with the landlords, but that's okay.
Hey, listen.
As
long as you pay your rent, you won't see me.
There you go. Yeah, I've had some run-ins and some issues over the years, but that's okay.
Was it you not paying the rent?
In a long dispute over a stabilized unit, I actually got written up a long time ago in the papers because it was a whole thing.
Wait a minute. So
okay.
You had a stabilized unit, and what happened?
Well, what I'm going to go into is just what's already sort of out there. If anybody ever wants to look in, they can always go look at the New York Times article on it. But yeah, I had a landlord that was doing very oddly egregious things.
Like what?
And the Times was curious why. They were curious how I could have my unit destabilized for such bizarre things. For example, supposedly having my closets improved when there were no closets in my apartment. And a bunch of other things that broke a lot of rules that were supposed to be set. But the problem is sometimes, rules get broken and no one's there to uphold them on the state level. But I have no doubt that, as a landlords have all kinds of complaints on their side. So there are complaints both ways.
Now, let me ask you this question. Okay. In this apartment unit that you were, going back and forth with your landlord, how much was your rent?
Well, that's an interesting question, because if someone's breaking the rules on stabilized leasing, then the question is, what was the rent and what should have been and what could have been.
So what was
and in New York, it's very complex with that, which you probably already know.
Yeah. So what was your rent?
At the time, a long time ago, many years ago, it was originally rented at $2,000. However,
that's a lot of money.
However, it was a lease that was oddly half-stabilized looking, and nothing can be half-stabilized because that doesn't make any sense, right?
Right.
Yeah, so again, like I was saying, it was, a lot of fraud. Anyone who wants to, substantiate can always, look it up online.
How will we look it up?
Yeah, my name's Matthew Pavonni. You could always Google me, Pavoni.
Pavoni,
yeah.
Matthew.
Totally. You guys can go find me in an article.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pavonni.
And this is all very, very public. So with the lease, you say to yourself, oh, how is something half stabilized? There used to be a thing in New York called preferential, and so for anyone who doesn't know, preferential meant that you could, for accounting purposes, say something was a higher number, but then for practical purposes, rent it lower. And what it would allow you to do as a landlord is, it used to be a legal way to then get closer to destabilizing a unit, because if you would increase it, you'd increase it on the higher number, and that was okay. That was a legal thing back in the day, and but there would never be any reason to have that on a market rate apartment. It doesn't make any sense.
Right, yeah.
So they were renting apartments as if they were market rate, but then giving language that was preferential, and then after the time that they were claiming they were destabilizing it, they were actually filing it as stabilized. It was all meant to be confusing, because because the rule used to be in New York, and it's a little different now, I think, but the rule used to be that if you could clear 4 years, it was very hard for a tenant to ask anybody to look into an issue more than 4 years back. And so there were onerous rules. And so now the laws are different than what I'm saying now, but this is what it used to be. So
what do you think about Montgomery's plan for rent?
Who's Mom? Oh, Mom Donnie's plan? Well, I think for some people it's a little confusing, and the reason why I say that is because if you're sort of in the know on how the rents work in New York, you understand that he's talking about freezing really stabilized rents. And by stabilized, he means the traditional version of stabilization. However, if you're not in the know, you might think he's referring to all rents, which would be beyond the mayor's control. So for him to do essentially the same thing that de Blasio did, which is have a rent control board with people who are down for, say, keeping the rent at what it is, which had already occurred. I'm very much in favor of that. I think that's a great answer. And I know I won't be surprised when it doesn't carry over to other rents, but there might be some people who will be. But you bring up an interesting concept because you probably know that the laws were changed recently regarding good cause eviction. You know, and it's always really interesting because you got this thing called good cause, which sounds like it's about eviction, but really the biggest impact is that a bunch of units now have a cap on how much they can be raised every year. People who are not stabilized have a limit now that actually stabilizes the rent, but it's a big limit. It's like 8.5% to 10%. Okay. And so now a bunch of people who were had nothing to do with stabilization all of a sudden are going to be wondering about that soon, and it'll be an interesting topic conversation. People who didn't really care about it, they're going to say, "Oh, I was stabilized, but why am I only stabilized at 8.5% increase? Because my check didn't go up." So you could have been in a big pricey unit, and now all of a sudden you actually have a stabilization. And so a huge swath of middle class to upper middle class New Yorkers who never envisioned themselves as being stabilized sort of are, and they're going to be separate from the ones that are traditionally stabilized. And it'll be a fascinating conversation in the next 4 years.
It is very interesting. What type of work do you do?
Actor, but very small
Really?
stuff. Yeah, you'll see me in the background of all kinds of things in New York.
Like what?
Everything that shoots in New York.
Really?
I do a lot of background acting. Yeah, I'm a union background actor.
Do you make a living as a union background actor?
It's tough, but barely. Yeah. But I'll tell you what I used to be in, okay? Just to contrast, okay?
Yeah.
I did 10 years in book publishing and had a wonderful time.
Really?
Really great, yeah. But I made a little more money then, but I wasn't doing as much hand-on creative things.
Yeah.
Now I make less money, but I do more personally creative things, and I find that kind of enriching, even though I don't make as much. And it's going to be a little tough, but it's hard.
But you enjoy it.
So that's why I enjoy sitting chatting with you.
Yeah.
I don't know your channel. I don't know what kind of content you really make, but I really respect doing creative stuff, and being in the neighborhood. It's really nice to see. So that's why, even though I don't even know what you're really, what your focus or perspective is, I'm really happy to chat with you,
Yeah, I like taking the conversation. People say you should have topics.
Yeah. You want to see where it goes?
But I think everyone is so different.
Yeah.
And has, a different story.
Yeah.
That the topic may not bring them in.
Yeah.
But they may have a story that they want to talk about that's totally opposite from the topic.
Yeah. Can I ask you what your perspective on Mom Donnie's ideas about freezing rent are?
Well, I don't live here, so I don't follow New York politics.
That's okay. Yeah.
I live in D.C. I'm a landlord. I think that the government has created like this Rube Goldberg contraption where the laws probably are written from the standpoint of landlords. Somebody's winning. I doubt it's the tenants, right?
Okay.
I doubt
that's
right?
fair. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I'll give you some inside baseball.
Sure.
I'm a software developer.
Okay.
I used to work for Con Edison. You know Con Edison, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the problems in their website was any landlord that had more than 500 tenants, it would crash the site once they logged in. 500 accounts.
That's
right.
And that's like nothing.
That blew my mind that there were landlords with 500 accounts, right? 500
in
units.
New York, that's like nothing. A landlord can have a portfolio of hundreds of buildings.
That's correct. And so once I realized that, I was like, damn, these people have a lot of power, and they're going to win. They made the utility company reprogram their website to account for them. There's basically a big landlord division within. So, the more complicated the rules get, the better off it is for people.
But it's interesting that you bring up Con Ed because they're a utility, you know what I mean? So they're sort of caught between being a little bit public and a little bit private. Like utilities are strange like that. You know what I mean? So you make a good point that maybe there are rules that could be changed to make that a little bit easier for a landlord. But that's sort of a fight with like a middleman in a weird way. You know what I mean? Because Con Ed is still sort of also their own thing.
Yeah. No, I was just saying that the power of the landlord. If you own 500 buildings, 500 units in this city, you got some money. If you got that kind of money, you got political power. And they're writing the laws. I live in D.C.
Well, I was going to say, do you have a hard time with the split between D.C. on a local level and D.C. on a federally administered level? Because I can tell you here in New York, there's a big difference between the political concepts and the way that things move on a local city level and the way that things move on a state level, when the state level is accounting for the interests of suburban upstate New Yorkers. It's very different games.
Yeah, it's two different demographics.
I would think DC might have some issues like that, but I don't know.
Well, DC more or less gets granted money.
Yeah.
And they allow them to run the city with that money.
Yeah. But they put rules, right?
Hmm?
They put federal rules though on the money usage.
Well, like any place, they send money to New York State for schools, and there are some rules around that.
Yeah.
And so the same thing with DC, a little bit, but DC is an interesting beast, man, because
totally,
it's a very interesting,
really interesting that you don't have that state level in between. It's really fascinating.
Because you hear that, you hear Trump rumbling now about taking over the city. I'm not sure if you've heard about this.
I've heard little rumblings here and there about that in the news, but he says a lot of things. We'll see. But I'll tell you, super interesting that that's a person as a developer and a landlord wielding those concepts and ideas how he does. It's just I'm not. Some people agree, some people disagree, but just the idea of the landlord president, coming up that way is an interesting, fascinating thing.
When he was first in office, he had a hotel very close to the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He sold it now to it's become a walled-off Astoria.
Mm-hmm.
But from that standpoint, he was one of the few, maybe one of the only, at least in my lifetime, he's the only president that had actual investment in the city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So he had a vested interest in making sure the city.
Now, did you see that as a plus or a minus? Because some people would say, "Oh, it's a plus because he has a reason to care." Other people, like myself, I would see it as a potential minus because those interests caused conflicts of interest.
If I'm your next door neighbor and I rent,
mm-hmm.
I may throw trash down. I may, do anything. But if I'm your next door neighbor and I own, we kind of have. Assuming you own, two owners,
sure.
We kind of, common interests.
Sure.
We may not even know each other or like each other, but we have common interests toward a positive goal. And so I think you get that by extension of him having investment there. He's going to want to see the city safe because he wants his customers to come in. Well, I benefit from a safe city too. I got property there. Whereas if you're disconnected, you don't have any investment there. You just have any thought, hey, I want to be safe. But you don't have any dollars at stake. And so his argument for making it safe currently is, I have leaders from other countries. They come here to do business deals with me, and there are homeless people sleeping outside of the White House. That looks bad. I agree with that, right? When people come to rent my properties, I want it to at least look good. If a homeless person was outside, I'd kick him, wake him up, say, hey, get the hell out of here. At least for the time being until I can rent the room, right? And so that's what he's saying. So I can agree with that. I can go along.
Okay, so I think that personally, I think that's a super reasonable argument. It's not really how I see it, but it makes a ton of sense. Just because I get a little concerned about the corruption element and how that creates opportunities to funnel money into them. And I'm just gonna, in an abstract way, you brought up a point that I think is really fascinating. That so for me, I don't really think that homelessness should be an issue that needs to be tackled so much by the private sector. I think that a stronger public governmental sector with more funding should be doing more to help with issues like homelessness, which in turn has a negative impact on private businesses, so that's a personal perspective.
I mean, I don't have any solutions for homelessness.
Sure. Yeah.
So I can't say.
Well, it's a really complex thing.
Yeah, I think that for the benefit of society, they should not be in places that they shouldn't be allowed sleeping from this man's business.
Okay.
Right? Because then you're tearing, down his opportunity to fund him, right? Because his taxes go to pay for that. So there's a happy medium where if you want to sleep on the street, sleep around the corner.
Well, the complaint and the problem, I think, is super. Question is then, which of the solutions do you go to? Because one set of solutions are people who advocate for potentially making that a criminal act, and a different set of solutions might be additional funding to try and find ways to get people off the street in different other ways.
Yeah, now
so
I think
it's complex.
Yeah, it's definitely not criminal.
Right. Well, so and I agree.
Right?
But some people do think that. Some people think that a way is to create laws to criminalize that.
Yeah, I mean,
and I disagree with that. But
Yeah, I mean, they're all going to be people that take it to the extreme. And I think one of the reasons why people take it to the extreme is because nothing's being done. All they feel like nothing's being done.
Well, I think that they feel like. I don't think that they're always attuned. And, earlier we were talking about things like block grants and how cities get money. I think that people aren't always aware of when money flow gets restricted to very large agencies, the negative impact that can have, or the positive impact it can have if they have money to work with on certain issues. In New York, we were talking earlier about renting. There's an agency called DHCR that was defunded significantly about 25 years ago, and it really hamstrung them in terms of their ability to do more tenant-friendly policies because they didn't have the money to do it.
Yeah.
And it changed their culture, and it was unfortunate because it became a little bit more landlord-friendly and difficult. So it's complex. It's very complicated.
Are you familiar with any of the current events?
Regarding what? I keep up on the news.
Oh, you okay? Good. Are you familiar with the Cincinnati event?
What's the Cincinnati event? I don't know.
The riots in Cincinnati.
I don't know of anything recent. But
Really? There were some riots in Cincinnati. I guess it was some Russian people, and the black people beat them up pretty good. And the black people were, I guess, justifying it by saying the N-word was used.
Okay.
I don't know the ins and outs of what's come of that. I think they've arrested some of the black people. But what are your thoughts? Do you on black people?
Pardon my smirk because it's got nothing to do with
I didn't even see you smirk.
But the reason I'm smirking is because you're asking me this question here in Crown Heights, where there's a very interestingly complex history about exactly those kinds of things and issues. We had riots here about 20, 25, 30 years ago that were on similar lines. Not to say that every situation like that is the same. Yeah, 100%. So it's definitely thinking about how to avoid that and thinking about how to have better relations in your community between different groups is extra important here where it's happened.
Yeah.
So.
But black people are very touchy about the N-word, right?
Understandable.
You know that, right?
Absolutely.
But some may say too touchy.
I mean, my personal opinion is I don't think too touchy. I don't think that at all, and I don't know that that's a concept that people outside of the black community should really be assessing. I think that at this stage of the game, it just isn't really a word for other people to really be using, and to what degree it gets used in community, I think that's up to black people, not really,
Do you think that black people should be able to attack a white person for using that word?
I think that on a base level, you shouldn't really be able to inflict violence on other people for almost any reason. But on the flip side, there's the idea that, every once in a while, if you see a reason why you might have to break the rules, you have to be then prepared to do the time. And, maybe someone gets into a situation where something gets so serious, they decide they're going to break the rules because they feel it's deserved. And it is what it is.
So they should be punished if they attack someone for using their word.
In a general sense, I don't think that you should be inflicting violence on other people, even if you've had verbal violence inflicted on you. But you know what? I'd be very sympathetic to because if someone verbally assaulted me in a similar fashion, I can't say that I wouldn't do a similar thing as that. So I think it's complicated, and people can lose their head, but it's for really good reasons. If you came at me with a slur, not you, of course, but if someone came at me with a slur, I might get very heated myself, and so you can't blame people.
Yeah, I totally get it. Let me I gotta unplug one.
It's okay. And I probably got about 2 or 3 minutes before I gotta run. But it's been really chatting with you about these complex issues. Because they're it's interesting stuff,
It is very interesting. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no worries.
I'm trying to plug up my phone here, and damn.
And when we run, I'm going to ask for a piece of paper. Maybe we can jot down the channel name, so this way I can go check it out later.
Yeah, guys, let me know if you can hear him. I just unplugged one of my cameras here. Questions? Can you hear me? Questions?
Yeah, you sound pretty clear.
Oh, you're breaking up. Yeah, are you able to hear me?
You sound pretty clear.
Okay, great. I wanted to call Be Brave. I would love to get Be Brave up here with this guy here. Anyway,
the perfect person for this right now. Be Brave is perfect.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you this.
And I think it's very simple. I'm empathetic to it, even though I don't think that you can. You can't say it's okay, but you also sometimes can't really blame
so I was going to ask you this. if you were on a jury,
Okay.
you say you'd be very sympathetic.
Yeah, that would.
And a black person said, "Man, he called me the N-word, and that's why I knocked this woman out."
Okay.
Would you be okay? You'd be sympathetic.
I'm going to give you guys a nuanced answer. Okay.
That's fine.
All right. So, there's things that happen in the criminal system where a judge decides what they're going to decide, and there is no jury. And there's other times when there's a jury. Now, I can tell you that in my experiences, there's a lot of times where judges just decide what they want to decide, and it doesn't even necessarily come into the specifics of the law. And sometimes their opinions and political perspectives are just what they do. But then we have this idea that a jury is somehow going to be so super above that. If jurors come in and they want to nullify something in that sense because they have a lot of empathy for the situation, I can understand a juror doing that. If they say, "Hey, the letter of the law is this, and I'm reading it, but I can't convict the person for whatever reason," you know what? That's the jury's perspective and job. And that
what would be your perspective?
Well, I think that each situation like that is really complex and also very nuanced. And I'd have to hear it in person. I think it would be tough to give a blanket response. But I'm really sympathetic to.
If you heard a white man call a black man a nigger, and the black man responded in kind by knocking the white man into the street, and he hit his head, and he was, really hurt really bad, would you be somewhat sympathetic to the black man because of the provocation by him being called?
Well, I would absolutely be sympathetic. And I think then one of the questions are things like, all right, where did he hit him? Oh, how hard was the guy hurt? There's a lot of factors that come into play. Like hitting someone in the head is a little tricky because, one punch can really seriously damage someone. But you know what? If he socks him in the stomach and the guy's really okay, maybe I'm a little extra sympathetic because scuffles happen, in life sometimes. And not every scuffle has to be to the nth degree. And you know what? Not everyone deserves to have their life really messed up just because they swung one punch if it wasn't really a significant incident. So I think it's really nuanced. And, like I said, if someone slurred me significantly, I don't know if I could see being in a similar situation and, I'd want to have extended
What would be a significant slur for you?
I don't know that at this time there is one that really is the same as the N-word for a black person, so I don't really want to totally compare. But, as someone, I'm going to, jokingly say I'm a pizza bagel. Half my family was Italian, half my family's Jewish.
Oh, you're Jewish. Half Jewish.
There's definitely slurs out there.
What did you call
yourself
a pizza bagel?
Yeah.
What's that? What is that? I'm from Alabama.
Okay.
So there weren't many Jewish people
here in this region.
Yeah.
Over the years, a lot of Italians, a lot of Jews got together, and so now we have a lot of pizza bagels.
Oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Pizza, Italian, bagel, matzo ball, Jewish.
Totally,
okay, goddamn, I get it. Okay.
100%.
So is that like a slur?
No, that's just just kind of something that we might call ourselves. No big deal. But in the world of both Italians and also Jews, there's a lot of slurs out there, and so what, it could happen. So I got a lot of sympathy, and it's interesting stuff to think about. And it's funny, I just was just watching with my girlfriend the new Superman movie, and it tackles a little bit of these ideas of identity and what you call people.
Superman movie?
100%, all about it. They did all about being kind of an immigrant somewhere and what people call you and what they think of you and how they attack you and how they use like rhetorical, verbal ways of slurring you even if it sounds nice but really isn't. And it's really interesting. So,
are you split down the middle on this Israel-Palestine thing, or are you 100%? Well, how do you feel about this?
I have a complex perspective, but because I have to run, and I was mentioned that earlier, I definitely can't get into it now. But it is a super interesting one, and it's been so good talking with you, man. And if you have a piece of paper, you can just jot down for me what your channel is, because I'm going to go look at it later. But it's really good having good conversation, and I hope it sounds like there's chat going. I hope that they have good conversation there. And here, let me see. I got some paper if you need. I don't want to slow things down because, you want to keep talking. So
what was I about to say? So
I'm going to have to run.
The whole Jewish Palestine thing is interesting, man.
Favorite, just right on the back of that.
Right here, where I'm in the capital, I was riding downtown one day and I saw they had like a place set up, like for dinner, and the Jewish people were basically honoring the hostages until the hostages were released. So every day they would set out plates, or maybe every weekend they would set out plates for the hostages. And so I think, you don't hear as much about the hostages anymore. But
here's what I'll just say to tell you guys a little bit about over here, because if you're focused on DC, it might be interesting to hear different perspectives, different areas.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell you an interesting thing about my neighborhood. So in New York and in America, Jewish identity is a really interesting thing because the vast majority of us tend to be very secular. Moderately to not religious at all, and a lot of us have a set of views that tend to skew a little bit more liberal. In this neighborhood, it's very interesting. There's a different community that's very religious. If you also look across the world, Jews in different places, like Jews in Israel, also have their own set of very interesting perspectives. They've got a culture where they all do military service, and they may be a little bit more culturally liberal in some ways, and then a little more conservative in others, because they're all sort of kind of do a little military.
Have you ever been back to Israel before?
I have not. So my point is that, like, as a group of people all over the world, and especially here in America, there's such a wide diversity of opinions. We have a saying, 2 Jews, 3 opinions. So it's so it's an interesting thing, and just know that that's as a group. Like many groups, like I'm sure also, Black people, of course, there's a wide variety of opinions. And, so just know that if you chat with someone, you never know what their opinion's going to be. And there's a lot of different people. But I got to run. But good talk with all you guys in chat. I hope you guys are enjoying. I hope everything's going really well.
2 Jews, 3 interesting opinions.
Well, that gives us too much credit. Sometimes our opinion, we're all human, You never know what's going to be interesting or not. But yeah. I'll catch you later, everybody. I hope
This is great, man. This is very great.
Of course.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I might reach out later.
Oh, shit. Did I miss my cleaners?